Welcome or welcome back to WatchAdvisor on YouTube. It's Alexander speaking, your host, and this is going to be a very special, yet a particular video because you have probably never seen something comparable on our channel. It is about mechanical instruments. Mechanical instruments. This is a mechanical instrument because it is a historical car dating back from 1972. Everything in there is mechanical, there is no electronics. It is about precision because I'm going to talk about a rally I have been participating with my co-pilot. It is called the Ennstal-Classic. It is one of the most difficult to drive and most challenging oldtimer rallies in Europe. 227 teams from 15 nations, including 6 ladies teams, were on start. 29th edition of the Ennstal-Classic. You drive 1,000 kilometers in total. But it's not a race. We're not competing on the streets. It's the contrary we're doing. We are matching each other in terms of regularity and precision. What counts is 1/100th of a second, 1/10th of a second. Every mistake you make during those 1,000 kilometers is going to be listed up. You are collecting bad points and your ranking goes down. The more precise you drive, the less mistakes you make, the better you are in the final ranking. And if I can tell you something, we finished that rally on the 6th position, and in the range of the last 10 competitors, we all matched each other in between 3 seconds. 3 seconds. Can you imagine what happens if you're doing the littlest of mistake? You are getting bad points, and your ranking goes down, and one of your competitor is taking over one of your places. This is our car. It is a Carabinieri car from Italy from 1972. It's an Alfa Romeo Giulia, 1600 engine, 112 horsepowers. We found the car in Italy. We rebuilt it to, again, be an Italian Carabinieri car, the Italian police. You can see it here, Carabinieri written on the car. It has everything it needs, including a siren, and we are participating with the car. But it's not the only car, of course. If you want to participate in such a rally, the car must be built before 1972. 227 teams were participating, and so you can imagine that the very first team, the very first car, number 1, was built in 1918. Can you imagine? Old-timers, these are huge cars, historical cars, very difficult to drive. You need force, everything is done mechanically. So you can imagine, why did we get number 224 on the car? Because our car is one of the oldest, or youngest if you want, depending on the way you want to see it. And this is why we got number 224. This has nothing to do with the ranking. Behind us, there were only another 3 cars and 227 teams were participating.
For me, the fascinating point on both stories, watches and cars, is these are all things which need people who are experienced and do with their hands something which is super precise, 365 days a year. And this is something which needs passion.
You are fully responsible what you are doing. There are no electronical systems which tell you how to put in a gear, who helps you that you have the right traction. No, it's me and nobody else who is responsible to drive this car, and this is my fascination. I like it.
Don't forget to subscribe and to hit the bell to get our latest notifications.
So I was talking about that we're driving on 3 days, or 2 days to be precise, 1,000 kilometers. 400 and something kilometers the first day, 500 and something kilometers the second day, adding up to about 1,000 kilometers, driving through the beautifulest roads in Austria. Incredible roads, mostly roads many of the participants have never been driving through before, and it is the organization of the Ennstal-Classic, and I have to say chapeau, heads off for them for always finding such beautiful roads we are able to drive. So to know where to go, what you get is a road book. The road book is handed over to you only in the morning before you start. So first in the morning you get this road book, and in the road book everything is there, what you need to know about where to go and what kind of special exercises you need to do. Everything is in there, where you can get fuel, where the lunch break is, where you have to stop, where you have to pass by. If you are not correctly driving along the road book, you also collect some points that add up and pull down your ranking end of the day. So the road book is the most important thing, including of course all the exercises you have to do. And to be able to do this, there is a mechanical instrument in the car that is counting the distance. The information comes from the gearbox. So the gearbox is connected to a mechanical counter. It's a counter that adds up the kilometers and meters you're driving. And what then happens is that, of course, you know when you are, for instance, you need to drive 40 kilometers exactly, you have a mathematical a sheet of paper where you have all the figures on time to distance. So the co-pilot takes his chronometers, his stopwatches, and is taking a lap time and looks on the sheet if the time is correctly corresponding to the distance you have been driving. If it's not, he will tell you 1/10, 2/10 of a second quicker or slower, and you as a driver, you need to adjust exactly what the co-pilot is telling you. It's all mechanical. Every kind of digital instrument, every kind of help that has a battery or is calculating anything is forbidden. The cars are checked. There is a technical check the car has to go through before you start, and everything is forbidden. So they really force you to use mechanical chronometers, stopwatches. They force you to use sheets to calculate distance versus time. Everything is analog in there. So there's no electronics.
No, nothing.
We are doing all the timekeeping with analog watches?
Absolutely. Everything in the car is original out of the 59. The car is a 59, and all my equipment for the rallying is about 65, about this year's, and of course everything analog and nothing electronic. I own also very modern special cars, but when I want to have fun and when I want to relax, I always take one of my classic cars. You sit in, you feel the machine, you feel the technique, and everything is different, and that's it. Like the watches and everything that is of old craftsman work.
Yeah. Fascination,
Yeah.
car driving, measurement of speed,
Yeah.
and everything done mechanically,
Yeah.
plus the wristwatches.
Yeah.
So this is the typical working space of the co-pilot in a classical rally where regularity is king. So this is the situation we would have if, for instance, the Ennstal asks you when you're driving to drive on the road a certain speed. So we have a mechanical counter that is counting meters and kilometers. And when you get into the area where you're supposed to drive at a exact defined speed, they call it open window. So you drive in, you pull 0, and then the mechanical counter starts to count meters and meters. And every 100 meter on your calculating sheet, that gives you a relation in between time and driven distance accordingly to the speed they want you to drive. So the co-pilot will make a reading. He has of course started his stopwatch, his chronometer, and would take a lap time. So by the lap time he would compare what was here to the paper, and if the time was correct, he would tell you good, and if not, he would tell you, okay, add up some tenth of a second or slow down some tenth of a second. And it's the driver then, sitting of course left to him, who has to react quickly and with lots of feeling on the gas. The baddest thing that happens if you're driving in regularity, that you're going to add up in kind of a sinus curve cycle where you're no longer going on an average speed. This is how we drove the regularity test number 8 on the Friday during the marathon. As you see the road book, we had to follow the road book signs to get to the town sign of Gersdorf, and exactly where the town sign of Gersdorf is on the road, you can see it either on road book or through the camera on the picture. Exactly there the regularity test starts, and you had to drive an average of exactly 45 kilometers per hour. 45 kilometers per hour. Not a single kilometer quicker or slower, not a tenth of a kilometer slower or quicker, exactly 45. And it's in the moment when you pass through the town sign of Gersdorf, you start your speed. You will only hear from your co-pilot indications if you are too quick or too slow. Some indications will come a tenth quicker, 2/10 slower or something like this, but not more. High concentration, and you see you go through the road book, turn left immediately. So you had to make a right turn and then you had to take care to make a left turn immediately, and always driving exactly 45 kilometers per hour, not slower and not quicker. And you continue on the road with including going up, going down, and some extremely steep turns where you need to control the speed as well in steep turns and continue to drive those 45 kilometers per hour. And funny to see here, the last thing we saw when we finished the regularity test number 8, we saw a red flag, and in the first moment we didn't know why the red flag was there. It was because they were controlling us. They were checking if we were really using only mechanical instruments. So on the regular base, they would stop the teams, look into the cars right after you were doing an exercise to make sure that you were not cheating.
This is, as you know, it's an English car. It's the first car of the popular Shelby Cobra.
And I see you wearing also a beautiful Breitling.
Yeah.
Do you have more than one mechanical watch? Do you own any quartz watch or smartwatch?
No, I only have watches like this.
Mechanical watches.
Yeah, only.
That's a passion.
It's, as I told you, it's my life. I'm also on stage when I'm on tour. I'm singing live. My musicians are playing. We don't have any computers.
No, but it's analog, it's singing, it's about, as you told,
Yeah,
no
the same.
synthesizers,
Yeah.
it's about knowing the lyrics, having good musicians.
Yeah.
It's the same with the cars. It's analog.
same.
Thank you, Peter.
It's my life.
Thank you very much. Peter Kraus, thank you. Another type of exercise you do whilst driving the Ennstal-Classic, and that's a typical thing you do when you drive historical cars in an historical rally, is that they ask you to exactly drive through light barriers. So light barriers are built up in, let's say, such a height, and the light barrier has a line where you drive through, time starts. And what they ask you to do is, of course, they tell you, okay, if it's short distance, they say, okay, drive through the 2 light barriers in the time of 8 seconds. So you pass, time runs, you drive through, and the co-pilot will count down the time, and when it is time to pass through the next light barrier, you have to exactly pass through, and every hundredths of a second is counted. Join us to see what happened on regularity test number 12. This was a very tricky one. You didn't know the way where you had to go because we all saw it for the very first time. First thing you do is you use the road book to finally get there where the start is, and then you see there is the start light cell, the photo cell standing there. What you had to do is climb up a steep mountain, 2 kilometers and something, 2.0 and something kilometers in a time of 3 minutes and 08 seconds. You were supposed to go through the light barrier and then go your way all the way up. and you can see it in the car through the camera. We went up all the way, and the tricky thing was, and this was really challenging, because until the last seconds you couldn't see at the finish line or the finish photo cells, because they were up standing behind a hill. So we climbed up, we approached in an average speed that we calculated to be there in time. We came up, and then we came up to that little hill, and then being on top of it, you finally saw the photo cells you had to go through. And now, not only going through them, they asked you to pass the photo cells in a speed in between 15 and 25 kilometers per hour. So you couldn't shoot through, or you couldn't go through too slowly. You had to have an average speed of 15 to 25 kilometers per hour, and to hit exactly those 3 minutes 08 seconds, a very tricky exercise. And you see now that it's pretty challenging to drive the Ennstal-Classic. So this is something else you do on the Ennstal-Classic, and it's the mix. It's the mix in between regularity driving. Ennstal-Classic typically is 40, 45 and 50 kilometers an hour on open roads, not closed or not shut down roads. It's in public traffic you have to drive. And these special exercises where they ask you, for instance, as I just said, to drive up 5 minutes, 13 seconds, it's just an example. Then they will close down the road, and you will have best conditions in terms you will not have to look about the traffic, because there is no traffic, but you have to manage. You have to go through the light barrier, and you have to be in time and the road. And these are the mix of these exercises, combining also both of them, is what you do at the Ennstal-Classic. And this is about what you do driving 1,000 kilometers, and all the points adds up, all the points and all your mistakes during these days add up. And we're not finished yet, and I will tell you something else in the next take. Then comes the highlight of the entire Ennstal-Classic, is always on Saturday, and they call it the Grand Prix. And there's one second exercise where you have to drive up a steep road to a mountain that is closed in a certain time, and this is called the Stoderzinken. You're driving up, the road is completely closed for you, and it goes up, and you're getting a tough time, and you have to be there. 2 light barriers. You have to hit exactly the time they give you, 2 light barriers, until you're all up on the mountain. And this is Stoderzinken. And then comes the highlight, and this is always the best teams are the ones who get there, the last ones. You're driving through the city of Gröbning in central Austria, in Styria, city of Gröbning. And the city is closed, the downtown area is closed, and what you do is, it is called the Stadt Grand Prix, the Grand Prix of the city of Gröbning. And you have to hit 7 light barriers. So 7 light barriers are built up through the city, and you start from the ramp, from the starting ramp of the Ennstal-Classic, and there is time giving 25 seconds, the other one 40 seconds, etc. You have to go through the city and hit those light barriers in exactly the time they give you. Let me now invite you to join us driving through the Stadt Grand Prix. What you do first is you go on the ramp, and on the right side you see a clock. So every 30 seconds a team goes into the Grand Prix. Either when the clock hits 0 or 30, you start your watches. Then the first leg, 25 seconds, a short leg. You had to approach slowly the photo cells. Then next leg, 40 seconds. You continued on the road. You made a left turn, a long way to go until you were able to see the photo cell after 40 seconds. You pass through. Then 30 seconds, the same thing here. It's a pretty long left turn, and only then you were seeing the two photo cells indicating you the next things you had to do. The first one, 7 seconds, a short distance, so you were driving slowly, of course, to get those 7 seconds done. And the next leg, 8 seconds, long distance, a much longer distance, so you had to pretty much speed up to get it right after 8 seconds. Again, left turn, 21 seconds until you go through the next photo cell, and then the final, you approach the final goal, the finish line. You don't see it, of course. You go there, you make a right turn, and after exactly 24 seconds you had to go through the finish line. And as I said before, every 1/100th of a second of a mistake you were making would count and would change your final result. To keep the tension as long as possible, to keep people watching the Ennstal-Classic as long as possible, what they do is the 10 best, they start as the last cars in a reverse order. So the ultimate last car who will go into the Stadt Grand Prix and will compete is the actual car or the actual team that is on first rank at this moment. And it will be only then when this car, the last car, the best team goes through the 7 light barriers, then we will know who is the winner of the Ennstal-Classic. As I said before, you need to really precisely drive through 7 light barriers, and we did it in 1 second and 49 hundredths. Meaning that this is an average of 0.2 for each of the light barriers, and we finished only on 5th place. The best one to finish was in 0.89 seconds, and you can imagine how precisely he hit or he passed through these light barriers. That's really high concentration and big fun in the end, because you go to the Ennstal-Classic and you have fun, it's emotions, it's adrenaline, it's everything. And year by year, I can tell you, it's getting more fun to be in the scene and to drive historical cars on regularity rallies as the Ennstal-Classic is. Time is taken or measured with stopwatches. I pick it up again, it's a Hanhart clock, a Hanhart stopwatch with a split-second function, giving you the ability or the possibility to read 1/10 of a second. And it's how the way you are timing such a rally. And this is the fun of it. It's concentration, it's fun in between the co-pilot and the driver, the preparation, the knowledge and the experience you collect when you drive such rallies. We will be back on the 30th edition. I want to say one thing to the organizers of the Ennstal-Classic this year. Chapeau once again, you've done a great job, guys, and we are looking forward to come back next year. And I hope you liked the video. I hope you enjoyed something else this time. It was also about mechanics, about what WatchAdvisor stands for, mechanical instruments in this case, cars, distance measuring equipments, and of course, time on chronographs. Bye-bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.